We've got to talk about this MAGA right-wing civil war, because it's actually been going on for a bit, but it really heated up with this one interview. Because we had former Fox host and now podcaster Tucker Carlson bringing on the leader of the white nationalist groyper movement, Nick Fuentes. Now, with that, Carlson himself has been called a white nationalist by critics for a long list of past comments he's made, especially his promotion of the so-called Great Replacement conspiracy theory, which suggests that there's a scheme to gradually replace white people with non-white immigrants. Even for Carlson, for many, Fuentes was seen as a uniquely far-right guest, especially when it came to anti-Semitism. And while you had people sharing moments from Carlson like this,
what I do think is bad, just objectively bad and destructive, is the all Jews are guilty or all anybody is guilty of anything, because that's just not true.
You also had people sharing clip after clip of this nearly 2.5-hour interview where Carlson seems friendly and sympathetic.
I agree with you on some of the things you're pivoting against for sure.
I'm an American nationalist.
Me too. Worrying about who lives in your country is far right.
Apparently, there's a lot of these neocon Jewish types behind the Iraq War. There's the foreign aid complex, which is really unique. It was the Zionist Jews like Dave Rubin, like Ben Shapiro, like Dennis Prager.
Fox is not a Jewish business, though.
Well, Rupert Murdoch is an ally of Netanyahu.
I'm not that interested in the Jews, but I'm very interested in the foreign policy question.
We do, on some level, need to be pro-white, not to the exclusion of everybody else, but recognizing that white people have a special heritage here. You say identity politics like it's a bad thing. I think identity is a reality.
Identity is a reality.
Right, and so the full interview, it gets millions and millions of views. The clips, they go viral, pick up tens of millions of views across multiple platforms, and of course you then have people reacting. And among those, you had Ted Cruz, who also had a very hostile interview with Carlson not too long ago, and he said,
"If you sit there with someone who says Adolf Hitler was very, very cool, and that their mission is to combat and defeat global Jewry, and you say nothing, then you are a coward, and you are complicit in that evil."
Right, and that as you had Republican and former Senate leader Mitch McConnell saying, "Last I checked, conservatives should feel no obligation to carry water for anti-Semites and apologists for America-hating autocrats. But maybe I just don't know what time it is." But then also, someone with a lot of sway in the conservative movement came to Carlson's defense, Kevin Roberts. Right, he's the president of the Heritage Foundation, one of the most prestigious right-wing think tanks in the country and the creator of Project 2025.
Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now. We will always defend truth. We will always defend America, and we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation.
With him then also adding that he disagrees with and even abhors things that Nick Fuentes has said, but that canceling him is not the answer. But then with that, you had others strongly disagreeing with, for example, Matt Brooks, the head of the Republican Jewish Coalition, telling Jewish Insider that he was appalled, offended, and disgusted that Roberts and Heritage would stand with Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes as somehow being acceptable spokespeople within the conservative movement. And now you also have Ben Shapiro jumping into the mix, throwing punches at both Roberts and Carlson.
It is not cancellation to draw moral lines between viewpoints. It is not cancellation to refuse to signal boost Hitler's supporters like Nick Fuentes. It is not cancellation to criticize Tucker Carlson for rhetorically fluffing Nick Fuentes and other anti-American crackpots.
In fact, Shapiro dedicated his entire show today just to the Carlson-Fuentes controversy, and he didn't mince his words.
They are white supremacists. They hate women, Jews, Hindus, many types of Christians, brown people of a wide variety of backgrounds, blacks, America's foreign policy, and America's Constitution. They admire Hitler and Stalin.
With Shapiro then warning that they're now being normalized within the mainstream Republican Party, and then adding,
"The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend."
Now with all this, for context, Shapiro's involvement here, it is likely something that he would already do, but also it is personal. Right? He's fought with Tucker and Fuentes before, but they also brought his name up a lot during the interview. Right? With Fuentes saying that he was actually a fan of Shapiro by the time that he went to college in 2016, having befriended many writers from the Daily Wire and getting cultivated as an up-and-coming right-wing debater. But then, according to his account, they first butt heads over Israel.
I tweeted to Ben Shapiro. I said, I've never seen anything on the Daily Wire that's actually critical of Israel. He quote tweets me and says, "To accuse a Jew of dual loyalty is the surest sign of anti-Semitism." So then I put out another tweet similar. I said something like, "If you're China first, you should live in China. If you're Mexico first, you should live in Mexico. If you're Israel first, maybe you should go live in Israel." And again, he quote tweets me and says, "You're an anti-Semite."
So you're an 18-year-old college freshman, you're clearly talented and you're engaged, you're really interested, and you ask not crazy questions like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And rather than explain it, they just call you a racist, call you an anti-Semite.
And so he claims that after a few months of what he said was just asking questions about Israel, he was finally excised from the movement. And with that, he claimed that the Daily Wire was pivotal in blacklisting him. This even though, in his words,
And not to be that guy and say that thing, but like, my best friend is a Jewish person.
Right, but on his show today, you had Shapiro going on the offensive, playing a series of clips meant to prove that Fuentes' beliefs had extended far beyond just innocently questioning U.S. support for Israel. With Shapiro playing clips where it appears that Fuentes is saying that women actually want to be raped, instructing his followers to kill, rape, and die in his name, oppose civil rights for women, arguing that Jim Crow wasn't a big deal and was actually better for black people, stating that racism is justified, questioning the history of the Holocaust, and calling Hitler really fucking cool.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool.
Though also with that, you had people defending Fuentes kind of landing in three camps or in a mishmash of them. Right? Some seeing those clips and just saying based. To others have said some of these are not recent takes, and others saying that they're out of context. But then with all this, you had Shapiro turning to Carlson, with him playing a series of clips where Tucker apparently defends Vladimir Putin, defends the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro, gives a softball interview to the Iranian president, downplays Hamas, and ties Jeffrey Epstein to the Israeli government. And with all this, you had Shapiro pointing out that Carlson also recently interviewed Candace Owens, who herself hosted Nick Fuentes before that, and arguing that this is a pattern.
You bring your dirty, ugly ideologies to Tucker Carlson's rhetorical car wash. He mixes it with some of the vestigial respect Americans have for him from his Fox News days, and voila, hideous ideas suddenly become mainstream. But there's no question that Tucker has become the most virulent super spreader of vile ideas in America.
You know, also in this situation, Shapiro, he wasn't the only high-profile commentator targeted by Carlson and Fuentes, right? Because they also talked about Mark Levin and claimed that he was actually the one who first radicalized Fuentes in 2016.
He goes live and he says, "America's becoming a majority non-white country. Does anybody think that's a good idea?" And I was thinking to myself, yeah, that actually doesn't sound so good.
Right now, while speaking before the Republican Jewish coalition, you had Levin shooting back at them.
For 6 months, I've been fighting these bastards, whether it's Tucker Carlson or whether it's Nick Fuentes, and I've been looking over my shoulder looking for help. And you know what I found? Nothing. What do you mean we don't cancel people? We canceled David Duke. Donald Trump canceled David Duke. We canceled Pat Buchanan. We canceled the John Birch Society. We canceled Joseph Sobran. We canceled pornography on TV. We cancel stuff all the damn time. Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters, American haters, Churchill haters. You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them.
And then, you know, there were also others who got caught in all this. Not just Ted Cruz, but George Bush, Mike Huckabee, John Bolton, and others getting lumped together by Fuentes and Carlson as so-called Christian Zionists. And with that, you had Tucker in particular accusing them of heresy and saying that they've been infected by the brain virus that is neoconservatism. You know, for now, we're gonna have to wait to see what happens. Yes, in the long term, but also even just this week. For the Carlson-Fuentes interview kicked things off. You now have Shapiro, but there's going to be a lot more back and forth happening. Though again, it didn't all stem from this podcast. These fissures, they've been widening for months now, if not years. Though arguably, I think the biggest mover in the last year or so has been what Israel did in Gaza. Lots of hearts, minds, opinions, viewpoints have changed. But again, that's just one aspect of a multi-front issue. And so with all this, as we wait to see how this MAGA civil war plays out, I'd love to know your thoughts, opinions, and reactions here.